Eddie, what are we talking about today?
Today we're going to be talking about the hip flexors. We got psoas, iliacus, and then we're going to touch on the adductors too, so the inside of the hip. Area that is very overused in CrossFit and probably lacks a lot of attention as well throughout the day.
Yep, definitely need to get these firing right. Here we go.
Let's do it.
All right, guys, so we're going to start with the hip flexors. The hip flexor is going to be right in here. So if you're one of the people that sit for long periods of time, that's going to become very turned off and shortened. So if you're driving a lot, if you're sitting at a desk a lot, stop sitting, get up and move around, do CrossFit. But you need to be getting up off the desk. So we usually recommend if you sit for 8 hours a day, try to set an alarm on your phone or some type of alarm every 30 minutes. Stand up, kind of just at least walk, stretch for 5 minutes, and then go back to work, okay? And also help your mind stay focused on what you're doing. So what we do, when we see lack of the hip flexor being shortened, generally what I'm seeing is when we're doing a box step up, we're going to kind of flare that leg out and then up and around. I've been watching this past couple weeks here. People have been doing this, they come up and around, and then when I recognize it, I'm like, hey, stop doing that. Proper range of the motion of the hip is to go straight up and then step. It takes them a couple seconds to actually process that and get out of the habit of doing this, okay? So proper muscle mechanics into that. Okay, next thing we're going to talk about is kind of that psoas muscle that kind of comes up underneath the abdominals. It's really, really deep in there, but that deals with that box jump motion where we're going to jump and explode, or we're going to hinge and use those for the Olympic lifting, okay? So if that gets tight and gummed up, you're not going to have that explosion of the hip, okay? And then lastly, we're going to talk about kind of like those adductors, which goes up underneath and it tucks up to the glutes. Typically what we see when we're not doing that is either, again, we talked about this last week, but if you're squatting too wide or too narrow, you kind of get some pain, but basically we're going to squat down, and if we're not pressing out on those knees or getting those knees tracking properly, you're not going to be recruiting these, or you can only squat to a certain depth without falling over. Okay, so Coach Eddie's going to talk to you about some more.
Alrighty, guys. So we've talked about kettlebell mashing, but let's talk about doing it the right way. We're focusing on our area right here, psoas, iliacus, so like this V shape. And with the kettlebell, it needs to be set the right way too. So whatever side you're working on, that side needs to be facing out so it fits in there perfectly. Then I'm going to come over, hop right onto the kettlebell, get as close to the groin as I can. And now the areas that I'm targeting here are going to be psoas and iliacus, and you can even go above the hip into the stomach a little bit and you still be working your psoas just because it attaches up to the spine in the back. But I'm focusing here. You can turn in and out, and you can spend a good 3 to 5 minutes on here depending on how much really needs to be worked. Things that you can do is you can flail your leg in and out, kind of help loosen things up that way. You can contract and relax. And the further you go down, obviously, the deeper you're going to get into that as well, and just loosening that whole area up. So after you spent about a good 2 to 3 minutes there, then I want you guys to come over, kick it out a little bit, and we'll hop on the adductors. And then here, we're going to be doing that same thing. We can flail in and out, or you can straighten all the way up. And then you work all the way from your groin down to your knee, just loosening up this entire area and getting it to loosen up there. Now, spending a good 2 to 3 minutes on both of those, you should notice a pretty big difference on how loose your hip feels when you're just going through a normal range of motion. Then what I want you guys to do is we're going to take a band, we're going to tie it around the rig. We're going to go ahead, step through. Now you can keep a straight back for this, or you can round. That necessarily doesn't matter. What we're going to do is I want you guys to come through and start contracting, getting that full range of motion and that hip and getting that full extension. Now, if your hamstrings are really tight, a lot of you might struggle with this. So that would give you some indication that it might be a good time to spend some time on the hamstring as well.